All right, beautiful. Thank you. Good morning, everyone. How are we doing today? Good so far? Okay. And good morning to those who may be at home watching us. Good morning, Kit, Helen, whoever else is out there. All right, today's talk, transforming and minding your mind. That kind of goes with the what you read from the Daily Word. Yes. How could I forget that? That mindfulness, and that's what I'm talking about today, but maybe in a different way than you've heard it before. This comes from my personal experience. I recognized, I think it's been a couple months now, maybe not that long, but close, that my mind wanders a lot, that I spend my whole day telling myself stories. Maybe you can't relate to that, but just there's constantly something going on there. And so then I have to ask, where do these stories come from? And some of them are very repetitive, like same story, different day. And so I'm looking at these stories and I'm thinking about how I feel when I'm telling these different stories. And I'm wondering then, is this useful? I mean, are all these stories really helpful? Do they make my life better? Do they enhance my health or my wealth or my wholeness or my spiritual growth? Do they help other people? And I had to be honest and say, not really. Well, actually, no, they don't. They don't really help. And they actually are a distraction. I mean, I could be thinking about other things. I mean, sometimes it's not that I never think of anything productive. I do. But in any sort of idle time, driving or just sitting at my desk, or actually when I'm praying and meditating, these thoughts just keep coming in. Most of you know that every morning I walk a few miles, and that whole time is spent in prayer. But even then, it's a struggle to stay focused on the prayer and not have other thoughts come in. I haven't really done it yet in over 2 years of having every single thought be focused on the prayer. Because these thoughts, it's like I have this really huge antenna or dish on top of my head, and it keeps drawing in all these thoughts. I don't know where they come from, but they're there. So I made a commitment to myself that I would change that I would not allow myself to always be drifting off in thought. And I've had some success with it. I'm still working. I'm a work in progress. So when I say where do thoughts come from, they mostly come from emotional states. They come from how you're feeling about your life, how you're feeling about yourself. I know a lot of us have been taught that thoughts create emotion, and I said this before. Thoughts do not create emotion. Thoughts trigger emotions, but they don't create them. It's emotions that create thoughts. Your emotional state triggers the line of thinking that comes to your mind. And so we have to look at our emotional state, how are we feeling, to get the answer that we need. Because some thoughts that may be negative, if we can change the emotional state that creates them, the thoughts don't come anymore. Like I can think back in my past life, when I was much younger, sometimes I would think jealous thoughts. And there was obviously an emotional state that went with that. And I realize now that I never think those kind of thoughts anymore. They just don't come to me because I healed the emotional state that they came from. The emotional state that involved fear of abandonment and all those kinds of things. So once you heal the emotional state, you don't have to worry about the thoughts because your emotional state will lead to the thoughts that you get. So if you are in a very loving, joyful, emotional state, you're automatically going to think thoughts that are loving and joyful. That's just how it works. So when we're working on emotional states, you might say, well, how much is this going to keep happening to me? I mean, I'm working on healing these states, but these negative emotions and the thoughts that go with them keep coming up over and over again. I've done prayer, I've done affirmations, I've gone to therapy or whatever, I've done all these things. And the only answer that I can offer is it keeps coming up until it doesn't. That's just how it is. It's in you. So emotional states, of course, don't come from outside of us. They are triggered by things that happen out here. They're triggered by thoughts in our mind, and they're triggered by our imagination. But the state is already there. It's already present. Childhood trauma, different events that have happened in our lives have put these emotional states inside of us, and we have usually a great variety of them. So in my determination to make a change, so that I'm not wandering in thought all day, I thought back to a little book that I know I've mentioned here before, and you've probably heard of it, called The Golden Key by Emmett Fox. You can actually find it online in PDF form. It's free. You can download it or just pull it up and read it. And Emmett had this great idea that whenever you have a problem in life, that you should just stop thinking about the problem and think about God instead. So problem thoughts come up, immediately you shift to God is great, God is infinite, God is all around me, God is my source, and you kind of dilute and overwhelm those negative thoughts with thoughts of God. So using Emmett, I thought, okay, I think that's a great technique, but it doesn't really deal with emotional states. So it falls a little short there. But the idea of making that shift that he offers in that book is a good idea. So I thought that that's what I'll do. That when I find my thoughts wandering, I'll immediately bring them back to, and I chose thoughts of love. It could be thoughts of God, thoughts of joy, whatever you would choose. I chose love because God is love. Love is the energy of God. So that's what I chose to do. Now, when you do something like this, like what I'm talking about, there's a series of steps you go through. And actually, I put them down on a piece of paper for you. So I'd like to pass these out to whoever is available that could pass out some of these. That would be great. Thank you, Katie. Oh, I got plenty. Here we go. Thanks, Gina. So there's a lot of words on this little piece of paper. And for those of you who are at home, you can always, my email address is theroadhome@comcast.net. Email me that you want a copy of this, and I will put it on an email and send it to you. theroadhome@comcast.net. All right, so this is my little reminder for you, and I'm going to go through it right now so that you are aware. I think everybody has one now, right? Okay. So beneath the title, Transforming and Minding Your Mind, there are 5 steps that we go through. Willingness, intention, commitment, certainty, and reliance. I've talked about these before. You begin with a willingness. Am I willing to change? So noticing my thoughts, and that I found them to be very bothersome, I was willing to make a change. All right, good. So from willingness then, you move to intention. Do I truly want to make a change? Because a lot of times we say we're willing, but then we don't do it. So you've got to move beyond willingness, and you have to create an intention. So you have the intention. I intend to change. I intend to change my thoughts, to shift to thoughts of love. Okay, great. But intentions are meaningless unless you take action. A lot of people say they intend things, but they don't do it. Oh yeah, I'm going to do this or I'm going to do that. And it's always I'm going to, never, hey, I'm doing it. And people say, well, I'm trying to do this. There's no such thing as trying. You're either doing it or you're not. Now, you could be doing it badly or poorly, but at least you're doing it, right? So, and that's okay. So we move to commitment. And commitment is not just saying I'm committed. Commitment is demonstrated by your actions. by what you do. You're not in commitment unless you're actually doing, whether you're doing it in your mind or it's something in your life. And then commitment is something you practice every day. You practice, practice, practice. And the more you practice, the better you get good at it. For example, we have these musicians here who have spent hours and days and weeks and months and years of their life practicing, right? And that's why they're so good. They practice. Anything else is like that too. You want to change your thinking, you got to practice it. You want to change your emotional state, you have to practice the new emotional state. And then once you've practiced a fair amount, you move to the next place, which is certainty. That is, you live in a place of certainty that you know that you're on the right path. You feel certain. There's no more doubt here. So if I'm shifting everything to God or to love, then I'm living in a state of certainty that God is taking care of me, that love is truly embracing me. And as we practice this state of certainty over a period of time, we automatically then move into the fifth step, which is reliance. I rely on it. I don't rely on other people for love. I don't rely on money coming in or this opportunity, that opportunity for love. I rely on God, my source. And I know that the right channels, the right people, the right situations will come to me and will love me, provide for me, whatever is needed. And I feel that sense of reliance that I automatically turn within to God, to love, and what I need comes to me. And that's a beautiful way to live. And I could say in my life that I have lived that way off and on. It's funny how I'll get into a groove and live that way for a while, and then I'll forget. And so this is all about remembering, for me, of course, is going through all this. And so what this means then, playing off of Emmett Fox's golden key idea, is that whenever, as it says on a little piece of paper, when your thinking runs wild, think about God or love or joy instead. Think about whatever is the source of your information. I feel drawn toward love for mine. You might pick a different word, but shift your thinking to that instead. You find yourself worrying, shift your thinking. You find yourself being angry at someone, shift your thinking. And you'll be amazed that when you're successful at that, at what happens. There are times in my life when I've been mad at someone, even arguing with them, and I've stopped, I've left the room or taken a break, and then literally forced myself to stop thinking about it, stop blaming them, stop thinking I'm right, and just turned it over and thought about thoughts of God instead. And inevitably, the situation gets resolved. In other words, that person apologizes to me, or I end up apologizing to them because I see, oh, it was me. So it works out. It's amazing. So for me, I'll do something like, it says on the sheet, blank sustains me. Fill in your own word. I'm using below that my word, which is love. Love sustains me. Love heals me. Love blesses me. Love guides me. Love prospers me. Love enlivens and energizes me. Love embraces me. Love enfolds me. Think it, but don't just think it. Feel it. That you say it enough that you can generate some emotional state, because thoughts of themselves don't do anything. It's the energy behind the thought that makes a difference. Everything that you've learned in New Thought and in Unity, it's important that you realize that it's not the thought. It's the energy behind the thought that is creative. So we need to work on, if I'm saying the love of God sustains me, then what does that feel like? If I knew absolutely that I'm being sustained by God's unconditional love, how would I feel? What would that feel like? And generate that love, generate that feeling. So that's how that works. So here's what I noticed as I did this. As I dove into this, at first it felt really good. But then after a few days, it got worse. Like the negative thinking got worse. But then I thought, no, it didn't actually get worse. I just became more aware of it. Because it was so automatic, it was just part of me every day. It's like, hardly notice it. There goes my mind again, and it's just what I do every day, mind wandering. And yet mind wandering became very obvious to me. And so it felt like things were getting worse. But actually, if you think they're getting worse, they're actually getting better. Because what's gotten better is your awareness. You are aware now. And your standards have been raised. Where before, negative thinking, all kinds of stories, that was normal and therefore acceptable. And now, suddenly, it's not so acceptable. It's not the normal that you want because you shifted to a new normal, a higher state. And so you're not happy with it. So it feels worse. And just be okay with that. Accept that that's where you are, that, hey, I'm really doing well because I'm aware now. I'm not going through life unconsciously like the majority of people on this planet do. I mean, think about it. How many people are operating automatically every day? Words coming out of their mouths, behaviors coming from their bodies, thoughts in their mind that are just automatic, without any real thinking, without any real spiritual guidance to it. It's just people just doing what they do. Think how many times you've just reacted in situations without actually stopping. And how do you know when that's happening? When you have an automatic answer like that. Or when somebody gives you an automatic answer like that, like defensiveness. That was one I struggled with for so many years, being defensive. It still happens sometimes, but I'm a little better now, maybe a lot better, at just holding off for a second and realizing there's nothing to defend. But that's what we do as humans. So you catch yourself doing that, of automatically responding, actually reacting. And you learn to slow down, to think about it a moment, to ask for guidance, and then to respond rather than react. So we live in our dramas. And our dramas take place up here and in here, in our body, because whatever dramas that are going on here, there's an emotional component that we feel in our bodies. And so to our mind and bodies, it's very real when we're in those dramas. Our little fantasies of conflict, of, when you fantasize an argument with somebody and you're right and they're wrong, or you're in a relationship with somebody, and of course, you're the good one in the relationship, and they're the one that are messing things up, right? Well, we know that's not right. That's not how things work. Relationships have dynamics. As adults, there are not good guys and bad guys. There are just volunteers. And we volunteer. What was that saying, the old Dr. Phil saying? We teach people how to treat us. And that's true. Whatever's going on in any relationship you have, if you're unhappy with it, well, then you taught that person to treat you that way. And you might look at how you're treating yourself. How are you treating you? If that person is disrespectful, are you respectful of yourself? Those are good questions to ask. And to ask them without judgment. And then to ask, what do I want? Who's the person that I want to be? So we live in our dramas. It's like going to the theater. I don't know if anybody goes to the theater anymore. I don't. If I want to watch a movie, I just watch it on my computer or the television. I don't go in theaters anymore, and I guess I don't really want to. But the whole COVID thing kind of put an end to that for a while. I guess people are going back to theaters, but I don't really want to sit with a bunch of people's noise all around me, their popcorn and their whatever else they're doing, their phones. I'd rather be at home where it's comfortable. I don't have a gigantic screen, but it's okay. So we want to be conscious of our thoughts, but then we have to ask ourselves, what do I want? What is it that I want? What do I want my life to be like? What do I want as I go through my day? What do I want that to be like? Do I want it to be a day of joy and love and peace? Or do I want conflict and drama? And so you can ask yourself, if you find yourself in drama, you can say, is this what I want? And if it's not, then change it. Change to what you do want. And not only that, you can ask, does this, whatever I'm thinking right now, bring me joy? Does it bring me joy? This is good reflection. And if you're living on automatic, you don't do this kind of stuff. But if you are a person who is thinking, who is a little bit at least spiritually and emotionally aware, then you ask these questions. Who am I being when I think this way? Who am I being when I treat other people this way? And is this who I want to be? So when I go to my other thoughts of love, it's important that not only I think about love, but that I feel love. It's also, though, very important that I am love, I am the presence of love when I'm talking to other people, when I'm with other people. So again, we're not just changing thoughts, we're not just changing emotional states, we're changing who we're being. And it's who you are being, ultimately, that draws into you the conditions of your life. In any situation in your life where things are really going well, ask yourself, who am I being? And you'll find that you're probably a joyful or a peaceful or a loving person, a confident person. And if it's a negative situation, who are you being? So that's an important question to ask and to think about. Now, we will find that we're not being who we want to be, we're not feeling the way we want to feel, and we're not thinking the thoughts we want to think. So what do we do with those? Our tendency is to resist. Not only do we resist changing our thoughts to love or to God, we resist the negative feelings we have. We resist the resistance. We start resisting and rejecting. And when we resist what we're feeling and thinking, we are rejecting a part of ourselves. And that's not love. We have to be non-judgmental and accepting. So you take those negative thoughts, those negative feelings, and you accept them. Okay, they're in me right now. I accept that they are here. It's not who I want to be, it's not what I want to feel, but I accept that it's here. It's what is. I love what is, and I embrace it. So we embrace what is. We surround it with love. Think of it this way. If you saw a baby toddler, learning to walk, and the child gets up and grabs onto the couch or whatever, and they're standing, and then they start to walk toward you, and they fall. Would you yell at them for falling? Would you yell at them to get up? Would you say, what's the matter with you? Get up. We are like that when we're changing our thinking. We're like toddlers learning to walk because we're learning something that goes against what we've done all our lives. That's change. So don't yell at yourself. Don't expect that you should be better than what you are. But you accept that that toddler is learning, so they're going to fall. So accept yourself, that you're going to fall, that you're going to make mistakes, that you're going to fall into maybe whole days of negative thinking until you catch yourself and become conscious. And embrace that. That's how we move forward. We don't grow spiritually through resistance and through rejection. We grow through love, through acceptance, through embracing what is. All right, so key points. Things I'd like you to remember. Be conscious of your thoughts and feelings throughout the day. Be aware and make it non-judgmental. Number 2, stop often and take inventory. How am I doing? Where's my mind right now? Where are my emotions right now? And third, make the shift. Shift to where you want to be. Love, joy, God, peace, whatever your shift goes toward. Number 4, accept and embrace everything that's not love, not peace, not God, not joy. Accept and embrace those parts of you. I mean, if you think about it, with the whole resurrection thing of Jesus, when he was on the cross, was he yelling at people and say, hey, you'll be sorry for what you did to me? Is that what he said when he was up there? What did he say? Forgive them, for they know not what they do. He loved people, even though he had experienced possibly the worst possible thing that you can from other human beings, and yet he still loved them. So you may experience the worst in your thoughts and in your feelings, but love them. That's the example that Jesus set. You don't have to hang on a cross. We hang ourselves on one in our minds. We don't have to do that. And we want to move beyond changing our thoughts to love or joy or peace or God or whatever, to actually being it, becoming it, living it. When I say that I live in God's loving embrace, that I'm a radiating center of love, then I need to radiate love. Even if there's just a little bit I can feel in there. Let it out. Treat people with that. Smile at people. Say hello. Be empathic and listen. That's love. Accept people where they are. Other people have negative emotions. Accept where they're at. I'm not saying you have to accept negative behaviors toward you, but accept where they're at. We do need to have boundaries as human beings, and that's fine. But you can establish boundaries with love. So whatever the change is that you're executing, you have to become it. You have to become love, or become an expression of God, or become joy. So that at some point in time, when you've reached certainty and reliance, people will see your face and go, wow, that person's got something going on. I want some of that. Because they see you, that you've got something. Or they want to be around you for that. Be aware, accept and embrace, and become what it is you want to be. Thank you so much.